Welcome to the show. This is The Force Always. My name is Diz, aka David Zammit. Let's get on with the show with the news, views, reviews, and and interviews. Nearly forgot, but anyway. So the news of today is there's still a little bit of chatter online about the whole The Hunt for Ben Solo movie that was announced by Adam Driver, who plays Ben Solo, who plays Kylo Ren, which is the same character technically, and there's a little bit more chatter going on, as you know the Star Wars community does often do, which is fine. Chat about this, chat about that, but you know, the whole blame game has shifted from Kathleen Kennedy to Bob Iger. Anyway, my suggestion right now in a brief statement is let's not blame anyone and just get on with moving forward. Because at the moment, Star Wars is so intensely received by the hardcore fans, not all the hardcore fans, but a part of them. It's, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if Star Wars just comes to a absolute halt and won't be opened up for any commencement for years or decades to come. Anyway, that's pretty much the news, and, you know, I suppose, again, no news is good news. Nothing on the Starfighter at the moment. Nothing on Mandalorian and Grogu, which is no news is good news. That's the news. Let's get into views. Views is my story idea about Star Wars. It could do with anything within Star Wars, and it's me letting you know that I accept the story for what it is. I just like to add my version of events. If that could ever fruition, that would be great. You know, but at the same time, I accept the story for what it is. It's, you know, the Star Wars saga is great. Anyway, my story idea this time is going to come so spontaneous, I've not even thought of a story idea. But that is about this show. I freestyle my commentary to you because I like to come off real and you know, as present as possible with some sort of predictions or whatever it is, theories. Okay. So I think The Hunt for Ben Solo or Starfighter. Which story would I choose as the story idea? Well, as nothing is really said of the whole synopsis for both of them, just coming off the title, I think The Hunt for Ben Solo would definitely please fans, hardcore fans. Starfighter comes off a bit general. I do think that the whole general idea of thinking with Star Wars is probably the better way to go. And I'm actually thankful, because the big glitch here is The Hunt for Ben Solo he's dead. Okay, we're just going to stop having Star Wars people coming back from the dead. If it happens, it happens, but, you know, let's just stop this coming from the dead. Out of the two, I think personally, The Hunt for Ben Solo would come second to Starfighter. I'm thankful that's going ahead. And I sort of understand why Bob Iger said no to this project. Because it, you know, unfortunately the project has too much reference to episodes 7, 8, 9, which is a sequel era of Star Wars. And the backlash with most of those films, 2/3 of those films, you know, number 8 and number 9, episodes 8 and episodes 9, The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, just caused too much upheaval. And I think this would just sound sort of like a bit of a good idea with the word hunt, For Ben Solo, it sounds a bit dramatic, but I just think it won't solve the problem and it won't move the story forward, but it goes backwards again in a, even though it is going forward, but we're sort of talking about characters that don't have to be relevant in moving forward. We can just come off original. Having characters that we know is always good. But let's just I'm going to go for Starfighter. That's my story idea, which is actually not my story idea, but it's the choice of which story I'd go with. It's the Starfighter. Anyway, let's get on with reviews. Reviews this time around is actually a classic novel, a classic memoir, or it's the Princess Diarist by Carrie Fisher. This is Princess Leia. Carrie Fisher, who played Princess Leia, probably the most iconic Star Wars female character, probably one of the most iconic female characters in the whole of movie history. And this was released a little bit before her unfortunate timing of her death, which was a long time ago now, 5 to 8 years ago. This was actually given to me by a friend that I used to work with, and it was very, very nice. I've only read excerpts in it. I'm not a big-time book person, but I do like reading information. This here is probably the most essential Star Wars thing to have, besides, your visual guides and stuff like that. But this here is an iconic book. It's look at the bottom. It says a sort of memoir. This here I would hold as a 9 out of 10, because I'm not so big on the text about Star Wars. I'm more about the epic cinema movie type stuff. But this is a 9 out of 10. It's so iconic. This book, just to have this book, is iconic. And I'd like to thank Duncan, the person responsible for getting this to me in my hands. He won't be watching the show. He's not a big Star Wars fan, but thank you very much anyway. 9 out of 10, that's my review. The Princess Diarist by Carrie Fisher, a sort of memoir. Let's now get into interviews. Interviews this time around is going to be Michael from Werribee South with his big time questions. Let's go through them. Werribee South representative Michael. Now, he's asking me this time, what is your top 10 Star Wars YouTubers that you listen to? Now, this is a good question, but I'm not going to actually answer, because for two reasons. Well, one main reason. I just don't want the influence of what this show is about, other than what I give. My influences and all that type of stuff it's really secondary. There is big YouTubers and small YouTubers I do watch. I do seek them for their version events. I'm curious about their what's in their heads as well. I don't agree or always disagree with these people, but there's a small contingent now, but 10 years ago there was an increasing amount. But I won't be revealing the top 10 worst or the top 10 best. I just think it's best kept to myself, because this is a thing. It's like Star Wars. I wouldn't reveal anything about... If I created a Star Wars film, I wouldn't tell anyone what it's about at all until the last moment. Now, that may sound like I'm not confident, but no. I want the actual element of surprise to what impacts for Star Wars. And I think this was the best done when A New Hope Episode 4 was first released in 1977. The impact of that was just crazy. But so I can't really answer that question. I'd like to sort of keep it mysterious. Anyway, the next question is, what disease did Darth Vader have? He didn't really have a disease. he did have a lust for power that got out of control. You could say it's a mental disease. He really had a lust for power within the Jedi, and then obviously being a Sith, and obviously being the universe. So to answer your question, he didn't really technically have a disease. It was more the lust of power, which is more, I would say, a mental problem, issue, which is heavily in our own society at the moment. But anyway, that's the answer to the question from Michael from Werribee South. Another one from Michael from Werribee South. Did Anakin have a crush on Ahsoka? He did admire her a lot. There was no real reference to this, as this would have caused an uproar within the community as well. Referencing sexual or loving nature. It just would have, been irrelevant to the Star Wars actual story in how it really unfolds. But yeah, there was never actual, real, official mention that he had a crush, but he did admire her a lot. As a Jedi, as a being. That's not a person, but a being, and really admired her. But anyway, the next question. Can a Jedi get pregnant? Yes, a Jedi can get pregnant. They can get pregnant, but to love another for intimacy is not the Jedi way. You need to sort of, take care of your community and people with love, but not be in a loving relationship. Can they get pregnant? Of course they can. If you're going to rock the joint, something's going to happen. Possibly. So that's the answer to that question. And the final question. This is a classic one from Michael. Is there LGBTQ in Ahsoka? I only watched Ahsoka once through. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. But from my memory, there was no LGBTQ in that particular series. Even if there was, for me, Star Wars is a universe. In a universe of many types of creatures, droids, and human beings. I'm not going to deny anyone in the story of Star Wars. It's just, it would not make sense to deny, and it would probably make the story interesting if you did include someone from the LGBTQ community. I think that's what he said, so I'm guessing that's how it's initialed. For me, writing a story or having a movie, I'd be very specific in how to create it. I think the biggest element in Star Wars is epic, and that is attached to emotion. I don't think, little things like or community-based stuff should be the highlight. It's epic. It's epic feel to Star Wars with an emotional attachment should be what is written first and foremost in a Star Wars story. And, if there's a character that I would create that is LGBTQ, or even if it's, black person, if it's a white person, if it's a yellow person, if it's a green person, if it's a blue person, I would include it if it was relevant. Anyway, that's the show for this time around. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, send your comments in to me. Ask questions to the YouTube channel, The Force Always. I don't have an Instagram at this stage for this channel. I don't have Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. No TikTok. Just let's keep it real through the YouTube. Anyway, until next time, my friends, keep rocking.